Hello and welcome to our review of Veronica Mars. I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.
And this week we're discussing the episode Mars Bars. This episode originally aired February 20th, 2007. Alrighty, let us start off with the number one song in America. And Dave, I have good news. There is a new song.
Supposed yay. Then it's also the question, who the heck topped up from the last week?
Any ideas who it could be?
Not a clue, my apologies. I have not looked into too much research on it.
Okay, so the song is Say It Right by Nelly Furtado.
Yes.
Yes, she was certainly a thing at the time.
Yes, so I question it was the case of was it her first big start or was it still kind of was around but was sort of in time to plateau off?
I think this is kind of like right when she's hitting it big.
Hmm.
Yeah, because I feel like she feels very like late 2000s for me.
Hmm.
Alrighty, moving on to video games. So, February 14th, if you had access to the Xbox Live Arcade, you could download Paperboy.
Supposedly have the interesting fun of doing paperboy job on video game fashion from the old 1980s or so.
Yeah, it's like mid 80s, I think, is when that game originally came out. Uh, February 15th, if you had a PC, you could play Mist Online Uru Live.
Supposedly, surprisingly enough, with the bit of information I have with MMOs, Myst was never one of them.
Yes. I would probably. I. Hmm. I probably wouldn't recommend this, especially as a first Mist game, but you should play the Mist games. They are very good.
Hmm.
February 19th, if you had a PSP, you could pick up Monster Kingdom Jewel Summoner.
Supposed yay, though it's the slight case of even with the front uh, box art and whatnot, there just horribly generic. I have no idea what the gameplay for this particular thing is like.
Yeah, it is super generic looking. February
Hmm.
19th as well, if you had an Xbox 360, you could pick up NBA Street Home Court.
Supposed yay, though I'm not sure if it was one of the ones of it was technically a basketball game, but they were experimenting with this particular styles of it, or
So when they were doing, I'm assuming it's because EA at the time was doing like their Street series where they did a football one, they did a soccer one, they did maybe something else. They were very like they were sports games, but they were like very arcadey.
ugh.
It was more in line of like an NBA Jam than like a traditional basketball game, if it's what I'm thinking of.
Mhm. Mhm.
Anyway, moving on February 20th, if you had a PC, you could pick up Maelstrom, which is a game that apparently exists.
Okay, another one of them real-time strategy ones, though.
Yeah.
Not familiar with the title of it.
Also on February 20th, if you had a PSP, you could pick up Metal Slug Anthology.
Yes, with the many joys of the Metal Slug anthology, especially with the seven-ish or so games that they had on it.
Yes. Have you played many of the Metal Slug games?
Case of first had experiences as young child in pizza places with arcade cabinets that they had with it, and surviving at least a good 3 or so minutes before I lost all my lives after one soldier shot me several times.
Yeah.
And then the case of knowing of the series, either playing this particular game and or one of the other Metal Slugs at one particular point and being like, it's a thing that exists, but not enough that I want to spend money on it.
Fair enough. Also on February 20th, if you had an Xbox 360, you could pick up this little game called Crackdown.
Yeah. Again, it's one of the particular ones that's interesting for its concept, and it's good that it survived a decent amount of time, but oh man, once it got to game 3, oh man, had things have changed.
Yes. Also on February 20th, if you had a Nintendo Wii, you could pick up Sonic and the Secret Rings.
Yeah, yeah. The marvelous time of Sonic being somewhat of a popularized character, but them not exactly having amazing ideas of what to exactly do with him. So they took the let's take old fashioned stories and slap Sonic into them.
And finally, also on February 20th, if you had a PS3, you could pick up Virtua Fighter 5.
Yes. Which, whether or not this was the very last Virtua Fighter, and or if it has recently gotten some particular sort of thing, case of one of the lesser known supposed fighters, though it was the case of being one of the first big arcade fighters that kind of existed.
Allegedly, Virtua Fighter 5 is still going. So it's been re-released on a number of consoles since then with different, like, versions, you know?
Interesting. Mildly surprised that they haven't bothered with 6, but also the mild case of how would that supposedly work and how much of an issue is it nowadays for trying to get something like that out?
It appears that there is a new one in development.
Neat.
So I'm sure people will be excited about that who like Virtua Fighter.
And our fighting games in general.
Yes. So, I don't know. Maybe it'll be good. Who knows? I've never really played any of the Virtua Fighter games. And finally, for number one film in America, it's still Ghost Rider. Because, of course, it is.
Supposedly, but also the slight case of what else was kind of releasing at the time that supposedly could have been trying to fight for its seat. And despite the fact that it's the one or two ones that I actually remember and somewhat, it's also the case of, yeah, it's the case of they could supposedly be remembered, but they don't exactly have any sort of staying power.
So, the movie we will be discussing next week was the bane of my existence a couple of months later when it released on DVD. But we will get to that next week.
Radios.
Alright, so for this episode, at the end of the previous episode, Veronica is arrested by Sheriff Lamb on the suspicion that she helped the now missing Josh Berry to escape from prison. This episode opens with Lamb questioning her and learning little, as she had nothing to do with his disappearance, at least not intentionally. Keith, Veronica's father, visits Veronica in jail. Cliff McCormick is their local public defender, also arrives and tells Veronica that she has been all but cleared. But Sheriff Lamb will keep her in custody for as long as he can because he still believes that she was involved in Josh's disappearance. Keith returns to the office where Hank Landry arrives and says that he found a bugging device in his phone. Landry has been implicated in the ongoing investigation into the death of Cyrus Odell, the former dean of Hearst College. Keith denies that he or Veronica placed the device in his phone, but Hank becomes angry, telling him to stop investigating him. Keith brings his findings on the death of Cyrus to Sheriff Lamb and provides an alternate explanation, that the dean had discovered his wife was having an affair. Lamb agrees with him that it was a murder. Lamb calls Mindy Odell, the dean's wife and the main suspect, to his office. Logan, Veronica's on-again, off-again boyfriend, visits Veronica in her cell, and they are more or less civil to each other. After being released from jail, Veronica is stopped on the street by Josh, who has Mason in the trunk of his car, frantically telling Veronica that Mason is the culprit. When Veronica disproves this claim, she tells Josh to call her using a disposable phone within 24 hours, and she will make him a fake ID. Veronica releases Mason from the trunk. Logan takes a wireless card to Mac as a favor, and she, Parker, and Bronson invite him on a night out. Logan, Mac, Bronson, and Parker take part in a Valentine's Day scavenger hunt. The quartet find their last clue at a beach. Mac and Bronson kiss while Parker and Logan bond while swimming. The scavenger hunt ends and they come in third place. Logan and Parker leave, and Mac and Bronson have sex for the first time in Mac's dorm room. While reviewing the Odell case, Veronica notices that the TV station the dean was watching the night he was murdered, moved its programming back an hour because of a Clippers game, meaning their estimated time of death was wrong. The forensic results about the prints in Odell's room come back, and they are the fingerprints of Steve Botando. Steve Botando is being investigated by Sheriff Lamb. Keith investigates the Coach Barry case some more, finding that Coach had Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. His wife took out a life insurance policy several days before his death with a double indemnity clause. Keith talks to Coach Barry's Keith talks to Coach Barry's wife, who pulls out a gun on him. It is a Colt 45, the gun that was used to kill Coach Barry. However, she claims that she was not intending to shoot Keith and that it was a relic of the coach's army days. Sheriff Lamb receives a call about the robbery at the Odell house. It is Steve Botando who bludgeons Sheriff Lamb until he is mortally wounded. Veronica gives Josh a new ID, and he successfully unlocks his safety deposit box at the bank. Inside is a DVD of Coach Barry telling Josh about his condition, and that he is planning to have a friend kill him to avoid futile medical expenses and give his family the insurance money. Josh flees the country until he is old enough for the limitation on the insurance policy to come up so that his family will be taken care of financially. Veronica shows Keith the DVD. Keith calls the sheriff's office and finds that Sheriff Lamb has just died from his wounds. Veronica sees Logan and Parker talking. Keith, now acting sheriff, questions Mindy with new evidence, claiming that Mindy is protecting Hank, or that Hank is protecting Mindy. So, what do we think of this episode?
I think with this one, especially with the couple things from the previous episode going on, was interesting enough, especially with the breakout from the coach's son last episode heading into this one and the interactions and whatnot there. Additionally, apologize, spoilers from last episode that we talked, brought up a thing that was in this episode, not the previous episode, got the mild events of things mixed up a touch, but nevertheless, just with base storyline of the big important things that were kind of happening, interesting enough and happy that it turned out somewhat decently, despite the fact that it's just not a happy sort of thing to deal with in general with the basic idea of it.
Yeah, I feel like we get a pretty good little conclusion, or it feels like we're getting close to a conclusion for this mystery. And we get and Mac has a nice little new relationship going on here with what's his nuts.
Yeah, with that. And again, interesting enough with having the B plot, having Valentine's Day thing, and at least some of the characters involved, but supposedly not bringing the heartache of Veronica, though at the end of the episode they bring in the heartache of Veronica with Logan, with the character within the story, and it's just the bloody drama, but also the case of that's what this show's about.
Yes, it very much is. Sheriff Lamb has died.
Yeah.
Primarily because he's a dumbass.
Just a touch, but also the mild case of it's like the slight guilt, but not really. But just the ooh, and the additional thing of supposed Jay for Keith also getting position for sheriff and whatnot, but also supposed issues that could supposedly come up with those specific things. Just the case of, oh boy, how this is the thing that happened.
Yes. So, next week, we'll be discussing the episode Papa's Cabin. Okay. So, this is going to conclude the mystery of Dean Odell's murder. So basically what's going to happen here, if memory serves, is this is going to be the end of this mystery, and then it's more or less going to be kind of like standalone episodes for the rest of the series. Or at least standalone mystery episodes, I should say.
Okay. Um, going on for at least 3 or 4 episodes.
I think there's so this is episode 15, so 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. So there'll be 5 standalone kind of episodes.
Okay.
Yes. I wonder how you'll feel about who the murderer is, because I feel like it's a bit. Some people like it, some people don't. I feel like it's a bit not maybe controversial, but I don't know. Anyway, we will get to that next week. So,
Radios.
until then, I've been Paul.
I've been Dave.